Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Whatcom County Council meeting for November 9th, 2016. Would you please call the roll?
Barbara Brenner,
Here.
Red Brown,
Here.
Barry Buchanan,
Here.
Todd Donovan,
Here.
Ken Mann,
Here.
Satpal Sidhu,
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here. Thank you. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple quick announcements. If you have your cell phone with you, please put it on vibrate or off. And if you'll be handing out paperwork to the council tonight during open session, please include a copy to our clerk for her records. Earlier we had committee of the whole meeting. We had discussion with Senior Deputy Prosecutor Karen Freites regarding pending litigation, Hearst et al. Versus Whatcom County. There was no action taken. Second item was discussion with Senior Deputy Prosecutor Jeffrey Sawyer, and I did that again. I left my notes.
Want me to get them? They sit right there?
Yeah.
You better have his key with you.
Discussion with Senior Deputy Prosecutor Jeffrey Sawyer regarding pending litigation, Ring versus Whatcom County, filed in Skagit Superior Court.
I'll get it.
I just said,
Yeah.
you gotta leave that door open.
While we're waiting for that, I'll skip to the next item, which was discussion and formulation of recommendations related to a proposed ordinance adopting the 2017-2018 Whatcom County budget. This afternoon, we had about 20-some council-originated budget requests to look at, and we got through those today, and we have some information coming back to us so we can make a decision on those, and we did make a decision on some others. Next week, we will be introducing the ordinance for the budget. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. With regard to the case Ring versus Whatcom County, the council met in executive session concerning the lawsuit Leslie Sherry Ring versus Whatcom County et al. Pursuant to Whatcom County Code 2.56. The council hereby finds the following. The employee was acting in a manner in which the county had an interest. The employee was acting in the discharge of a duty imposed or authorized by law, and the employee acted in good faith. The officers, officials, agents, or employees will be defended and indemnified pursuant to and consistent with the provisions in Whatcom County Code Chapter 2.56. I would entertain a motion to adopt these findings.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is our open session. Open session audience members will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to the council business. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record, and if your last name is complicated, please spell it so the clerk can get it into the records. Make sure to speak directly into the microphone, and we ask that there is no applause or general reactions to any of the testimony. We want to make sure nobody's intimidated. We want to make sure each side of any issue can be heard. So we would appreciate that in advance. So, given that, we will open the public open session. Come on down if you have something to speak to us about.
Good evening, Mary Kay Robinson. I'm the 2016 president of Whatcom County Association of Realtors. I'm here to talk a little bit about the Hearst decision. Oh, broke my necklace. Some facts. The typical rural home draws an estimated 150 gallons per day. 90% of that water is returned to the groundwater system through the drain field of the septic system. The net daily consumption then is roughly 15 gallons per day. Almost always, this well water is taken from an aquifer that is deeper than the water table groundwater system and is always recharged to the water table system. That means that 90% of the pumped water goes into the stream higher in the basin than it would have discharged to the stream as normal groundwater discharge. This is actually a benefit to the stream. Another fact, The average mature Doug fir is estimated to consume 250 gallons of water per day. In its 4-month growing season, that equates to 30,000 gallons per season per tree. If the equivalent of 4 mature trees are removed, that would save more than 320 gallons per day as an annual average for the property. In a strange way, oddly, the court decision actually frees the county from ecology rules. The county is now responsible for assessing all of the hydraulic elements. When all the hydraulic changes inherent to building a home on rural property are considered, the actual net effect can generally be an enhancement of recharge and therefore to the base flow of the streams. So how do we, as a community, respond to the Hearst decision? Cut down all the Doug fir trees? No, that's just silly. However, we can look at the science and realize that draconian measures are not necessary. We do not need to impose new permit rules, well monitors, and other costs on rural property owners. What we should do is work together to map and determine hydraulic continuity for our groundwater resources and also develop an ordinance that quickly restores the ability to secure building permit applications utilizing science and groundwater resources. And we should unanimously support Senator Erickson's legislative fix. The legislation got us into this predicament, and our legislators can correct it. We do not need to extend the moratorium, and indeed other counties have shown that it is entirely possible to address the situation without resorting to drastic measures. I urge you to support Senator Erickson in his legislation efforts and use actual science to address the issue. And I have a report from the Groundwater Association. I only made 7 copies, so I don't have an 8th. What would you like to do? You already have it?
I do. I don't know if everybody does. But.
Well, I'll hand it off, and if you have it, you can recycle.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may, sir.
You mentioned some other counties have come up with some simple solutions that, can you give us examples of those?
Spokane has created a solution, like for instance, having something that's at least 500 feet from the water source. Just looking at how if a tree is drawing, all that groundwater, and wells maybe go 100 feet or so, you're drawing from an aquifer versus all that groundwater.
I understand that. I'm just
Yeah.
asking about specific legislation that other counties or
My
jurisdictions
understanding
have
is that-
implemented
yeah.
that we could model.
Spokane is one of them that has done some things that we could take a look at and modify to whatever would work for us, so that it's not necessarily onerous on the property owners and we can still continue to do business, but yet doesn't just produce such an onerous burden on hiring hydrologists and all this other kind of stuff. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Mary Kay, before you, could you just leave your phone number?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
And then you can come up to either side.
Okay. Hi, my name is Laura Sanderson. I live in Whatcom County. I'd like to read a letter I had, short paragraph actually, from a person who bought property near where I live. It says, we acquired the property in 1987, intending to use it as a long-term investment to fund our retirement. We've been paying property tax then at rates as if the property would be easy to build on. Since then, the county has changed the zoning, limiting the ability to subdivide the property, which reduced our ability to sell. The property taxes continue to rise each year. Now that we're reaching retirement age, we need to sell the property. We're not able to continue to pay the property tax on our reduced retirement income. The inability to have a well makes the property virtually impossible for me to sell. After paying ever-increasing property taxes for 30 years, we're now faced with the prospect of property that can't be built on, can't be sold, and property taxes we can't pay. This is just an example of several phone calls and emails that I've had from people that I know out in the county. They're very frustrated with the water moratorium. We understand the need to do something, but realistically, the amount of water that the city of Bellingham consumes, every house, every day, and then dumps it out in the bay, is way beyond anything somebody out in the county who has a well or septic uses. It's not rocket science. That water goes back into the ground. What all the houses in Bellingham use, and those that are intended to be built, another 5,000 in Bellingham city limits, are going to do much more worse to our water table and water supply than have that amount of homes anywhere else. You have to look at this reasonably. There are a lot of people who own property, who bought it as an investment, who you're leaving with virtually nothing. What are they supposed to do with property they can't get water to? And for what reason? Because we want to keep everybody built into Bellingham? Because we want to build on 5,000 supposedly buildable lots in the city? That's ridiculous. It's almost like this water solution, that moratorium that has been passed, is kind of taking away the American dream of owning your own home. No, let's pack everybody into these little urban growth areas that we have. That's not what everybody wants. And I don't know who made the decision that all of a sudden we need to change all of this, but you need to look at it realistically. It's not rocket science.
30 seconds, please.
People who have wells and septic systems use way less water than the houses that you want to put in Bellingham and the high rises. So I'd ask you, moratorium's going to be up on December 24th. There's going to be about a month before legislation can do anything about it. I'd ask you during that time to look at what Spokane has done. They put the onus back on the ecology department where it belongs. And if you can't do that, at least wait
Time.
until we can present it with legislation.
Could you leave your phone number, please?
Hi, my name's Eric Jones, and thank you for this chance to address you. Also, speaking on the water moratorium, I grew up actually born and raised in Bellingham in 1969. My folks still live in the house I grew up in Ferndale. My wife and our family, we live out in the county right now on 5 acres. We are on a water association, but we also have a well, and I've heard there might be notes for metering or using that. I happen to be an electrical engineer. I'm a licensed engineer, professional engineer in the state of Washington. I work at Anvil Corporation. I'm the engineering manager there of the electrical group. I like numbers. So on 5 acres with Bellingham's average rainfall of 3 feet, that's about 15 acre feet of water. That's about 5 million gallons of water that God provides, just falls out of the sky. The United States EPA says your average household uses about 400 gallons of water a day. I think I heard an earlier number that's about 200. My water bill from Deer Creek actually says it's about 200 gallons a day that I use. Most of that goes back into the septic system. So if you take the 200 or even the 400 gallons a day, do that over a year, compare that to what the rainfall brings, you're looking at 1.5% to 3% of the rainfall that we take out of the well, that an average household would take out of the ground. And all of that, or 90% or so, goes back into the septic drain field. So we're looking at the water usage on a typical 5 acre plot of land maybe being 0.5% or a percentage of what rainfall is. In the engineering world, we call that insignificant. So, by just hearing that previous lady talk about the hardship that would place on somebody that had been saved up for, a piece of property to build on over insignificant, I mean, really, wow, that's, let's think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. So Deer Creek Association tells everybody how much they're using?
Yes, they do. We get a bill every 2 months, and I recognize they're a well source also, so we're pulling our water instead of from our own well, which we use for seasonal irrigation and so forth. We get our water off of the association. They provide fire hydrants for fire protection, and we get a bill that shows our water usage every second month, and we pay by the cubic foot, or they convert it to gallons as well.
Would you leave your number, please?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good way to find out.
Hi there. Just want to say my name is David Stritch. It's S-T-R-I-C-H, and I just want to thank you all for your service to this community. It's hard to be an elected official these days, and so just thank you for doing the work and putting up with a lot of us and doing your best to make sure that our community is safe and we have what we need. So appreciating that, I'm here to follow up. I came here 2 months ago to talk about a speed limit over on Marine Drive, and just wanted to follow up on that topic with you all. I heard that I was going to get some information around this time in November, and I just haven't heard anything, so don't know if I should be reaching out to you all more or if there's someone who will be speaking to me. Any thoughts?
Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, let me think who, it was somebody from Public Works, Joe Rutan.
Okay.
Was supposed to get a hold of you. And I have his phone number, but I don't have it right on me. You can, I'm in the book, if you want to call me, I'll give it to you.
Sure.
I've got his number, I'll give it to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
Mr. Techie here, huh?
He talked to us about the Marine Drive.
Yeah, he was gonna get a hold of you.
Okay, so yeah, I'll follow up with him and then maybe email you all as well.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Should I get that from you right now? Is that
I'll bring that to you.
great? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. My name's Bud Breakey. Last name is spelled B-R-E-A-K-E-Y. I'm just a young guy. I'm 33 years old and just recently bought property up on Whatcom Mountain. And I'm not a numbers fellow, unfortunately, so I'm not going to give you any really good information, and you probably don't want to hear a sob story. But unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck in one. Just purchased some property on Whatcom Mountain for $130,000, which was $133,000, which was absolutely the max of what my wife and I could afford. I just had a 1-year-old daughter. She's just turned 1 year, 2 months the other day. And it's kind of our dream property. It's 10 acres, beautiful. Actually, it's got some incredible old growth timber on it that it's never been logged. It's a really pretty property. My dream, of course, is to build a house on it. We just evidently, stupidly, drilled a well about 3 months ago. That's may potentially be completely worthless. So I just spent $13,000 that I can't afford necessarily to drill a well on a $130,000 piece of property that is potentially worth nothing. I don't know about you guys, but $145,000, $150,000 is a massive, massive impact on my life. It's a massive impact on my daughter's life. It's going to be a massive impact on my wife's life. You know, like I said, big sob story doesn't make much difference, but there are a lot of people like me in Whatcom County that have evidently very stupidly bought property that said the value was set at such and such a value. My value is zero now if something like this stands. So, you know, there's a lot more than just dirt and water out there. There's people's lives and there's people's futures at stake, and that's. I hope that means something to somebody.
Thank you.
Please leave your number.
You got it.
My name is Tim Vandermeulen, V-A-N-D-E-R-M-E-U-L-E-N. I'm a lot like the last speaker. Me and my wife did a lot of research over the past year, looking for land, looking for a house. We found a piece of land, and everything was good as far as us buying it, putting a little house on it. We closed on it on October 12th, and we all know what happened on October 25th. So we have 20 acres, the power's there, the water's there. We're gonna be paying homeowner, or it's part of a homeowners association, and it's a shared well, and we cannot do anything. So we're sitting on a piece of property that has everything there, and we are unable to even submit to the county. And I don't believe it's fair to me or to anybody else that's in this position. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Would you please leave your phone number?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Roger Sefcik. I've spoken with y'all before. I live just north of Ferndale. And I guess I'm fortunate in that I live on acreage that has a community water system. In fact, I guess I should be thanking you guys because I've got 35 acres that really went up in value because it could be subdivided and served that way. But I'm not here to do that because I don't want to profit off of somebody else's loss. It's just not right what's going on here. We moved here from New Mexico, which is, you probably know, is a very dry place. We spent 11 years. One of the reasons we came to the Northwest is we kind of wanted to live in an area that had an abundance of water. And so I'm in shock that water has become a big issue here. I would have never dreamed that, but apparently it has, and I don't understand it. Mr. Johnson went through some numbers, and oddly enough, I kind of did the same thing, because coming out of New Mexico, acre feet of water and all that kind of stuff matters. And so using some of the same data we've talked about, the 150 gallons that an average family uses, and 90% goes back in the septic system. So you got 15 gallons a day that we're dealing with. And by the way, the same 15 gallons that somebody in the county doesn't put back in, the same thing happens in Bellingham. It's no different. But anyway, if you look at that, over the course of the year, that's 5,500 gallons of water that doesn't get put back. Now, over the course of an acre of land, you probably don't know, but 1 inch of rain is going to yield you 27,000 gallons of water. 27,000 versus the 5,500 that we just talked about. It's minuscule. It's 0.2%. But of course, we don't tend to live on 1 acre. We easily have 5 acre or more lots. So now you're talking about 4/100ths of an inch of rain. But then again, we get more than an inch of rain around here. 40, 42 inches, depending on who which source you go to. We're talking about 1/1000th of an inch of rainfall is what we're talking about here. I brought a ruler. I mean, I could measure this. We're probably looking at about 40 inches here. And I tried all day. I could not find 1/1000th of an inch on this thing. It's not there. Okay? So, if y'all want to find it and show me, it would be helpful. But I don't know why we're putting these people through this. This is nonsense. Again, if this were about money, I should be thanking you, because you've helped me in that respect. But this isn't about money. It's about doing what's right for people. So you need to repeal this and correct this problem. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak during the open session?
Good evening. I'm Buck Breaky. I'm the young man's dad, the dumb guy about the land. About 10 years ago, I bought a 10-acre piece just across the Mount Baker Highway from where I live. And I decided as I neared retirement, I would go ahead and try to do my own short plat on that, going through the county and so on. And I found out about a 6 or 6.5 year process that I jumped through a lot of hoops to do that. Whenever you want to make a bigger piece smaller, there's a lot of regulations. You've opened it up to where you're under the county scrutiny to do it just their way, and with including wetlands and mitigation and decommission a well for a drain field site, and to dig a new well in the back for the back piece of property, and to have the apron put on the road all to specs and so on. So I invested a lot of money and a lot of time, because I was trying to do it myself, kind of in a weekend type of thing. And I'm all set. I have the wells in and all that. I crossed every T, I dotted every I, and now from the sounds of it, it sounds like that all may be in jeopardy. And I'm fortunate. I'm not like my son. I can retire. I don't have to sell that piece. But what really bothers me is the rug being pulled out from under people like myself, like my son, like the other gentleman that just shared. I know you guys weren't on the court decision. I'm not mad at you. And I appreciate that you have not only the job and the responsibility and the charge to fix this, and you're the guys that have to do it for us. We're your county, and you're our guys. And it sounds like, to me, like we're being counted as guilty until proven innocent. We have to, I believe there's something about having to prove that our wells won't deplete the Nooksack. And the Nooksack gets most of its water from up on the mountain. And what we draw up from 170 feet down on my well, you know, we're really like the first lady, the realtor gal, explained that actually brings aquifer water up to runoff water, which will get to the Nooksack. And I truly believe it's not a water issue, like the fellow from New Mexico said. I don't think it's a water issue. I think this is a power
30
issue
seconds, please.
about restricting people's private property use, and that angers me. But anyhow, and to make it clear, when people talk about our water from wells going into a septic field, it doesn't go there and stay there. It fills the septic tank, the solids stay there, the fluids go into a drain field, and they go through the ground, and it's purified again, and it is just like it started. So when I pee, I'm putting water back in the
Time.
back in the Nooksack. But thank you very much.
Would you please leave your phone number? Sorry. Anybody's going to talk about water if you haven't already done, just leave your phone number, please.
Anyone else like to speak during the open session?
What?
Seeing no one, we will close the open session.
Mr. Chair, may I just make a comment? These open sessions bring out a lot of emotions and different people. I just wanted to compliment the audience today. The tone was I thought, very civil and very constructive. I just appreciated that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, moving to other items from Special Committee of the Whole this afternoon. First item is a resolution ordering the cancellation of accounts receivable more than 1 year old. Entertain a motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Second item is a resolution ordering the cancellation of checks, or otherwise known as warrants, more than 1 year old. I'd entertain a motion for approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Third item is a request authorization for the county executive to enter into an interlocal agreement between Whatcom County and the Whatcom Conservation District for Lake Whatcom Homeowner Incentive Program, or otherwise known as the HIP, in the amount of $50,000. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Brown abstaining. Fourth item is a resolution authorizing the county executive to make application and enter into a grant agreement with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for funding through the Non-Highway and Off-Road Vehicle Activities Program in the amount of $200,000 for the development of non-motorized recreational trails at Lookout Mountain Forest Preserve and Lake Whatcom Park, and $200,000 for the development of non-motorized recreational trails at South Fork Park. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I'm making an amendment to remove the money for the development of the non-motorized recreational trails at South Fork Park. Reason I want that removed is there doesn't seem to be a lot, I mean, obviously the people who want to use the trails are all happy, but the people in the South Fork Park area, I've gotten lots of calls and lots of talking. I don't know of anybody who actually lives out in that area who's really interested in having this, and a lot of people are very concerned about it. So I would like to see us separate out that from the Lookout Mountain Forest Preserve and Lake Whatcom Park, because I support them.
Do we have a second to Councilmember Brenner's amendment?
I'll second it to hear more about it because I'm not familiar with the concerns.
Well, South Fork Park, it's an area that there's a lot of people who live there who are not they don't want to have a bunch more trails and stuff. There's already a lot of open space there and everything, but, I don't believe, I might be wrong, Mike's here and he can speak to it, I suppose, but I'm not believing that there was a lot of involvement from the people who actually live in that area. And I thought I would have heard a little bit more encouragement about it, and I'm not, and I've only heard negative comments about it. So we've got plenty of parks, we've got plenty of financial needs because of these parks, and I just don't think we need to add on to it to something that, like you said, you don't even know that much about it. You sure know, you know about Lookout Mountain, and you know about Lake Whatcom Park.
But I haven't been hearing concerns about South Fork Park either.
Well, maybe they just know that I'll listen to their, and they don't know you yet or something. I don't know. I'm just telling you that this has been controversial since the day it was started. And I want to take that part out and do it separately.
Councilmember Mann.
It was controversial since the day it started. And I remember way back when I started on the council, we had a lot of public hearings, a lot of meetings, and a lot of votes on this particular subject, going back 7 years. I don't think this is the right time to undo 7 years of thought and planning and robust discussion. I agree, not everyone loves this, but we made decisions over and over and over again through multiple different councils, and I know you've never supported it, so I respect that you're here trying to stay strong on that, but I don't think this is the right time to change course after 7 or even more years of planning and consideration.
Ms. Brenner.
Well, I'm asking a favor to bifurcate, and then you could vote for both parts, but I get to vote for one part and not the other. I don't want to vote for it.
Oh, that's all you're advocating for, is just to...
No, actually, I'm advocating for not doing it.
The motion is not to bifurcate, it's to remove.
That's what I thought you said.
Well, yeah, but you could vote for it separately, on its own.
That's not the motion.
Well, you could say bifurcate it and make 2 motions.
Be 2 resolutions then, we'd have to.
It'd have to be 2
So
resolutions.
what? Okay, what way do you want to vote? I mean, I just don't think it should be there, and I really don't think it belongs in the same discussion as Lookout Mountain and Lake Whatcom.
Any other discussion on the motion to amend?
That's
Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Sorry, which motion are we voting on? The motion to amend?
Motion to amend.
Okay.
Oh, to amend. Aye.
All those opposed? No. That fails 1 to 6. So back to the resolution for both $200,000 grant for both the Lookout Mountain Forest Preserve, Lake Whatcom Park, and South Fork Park. Any further discussion on the full resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
That passes 6 to 1 with Councilmember Brenner opposed. Next, we have council appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. We have an appointment to 4 vacancies on the Horticultural Pest and Disease Board. Applicants are Melissa Bedlington, Alan Brown, Mike Hawley, and Matthew McDermott. The Horticultural Pest and Disease Board assists Whatcom County in its efforts to more effectively control and prevent the spread of horticultural pests and diseases. Do I have a motion to appoint?
Yes, you do.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got one question.
Sure.
I'm really impressed that actually 4 people put their names in. Who knows something about this board? Forrest, maybe?
Forrest.
Looking for him.
I know, it's like,
I know, and I read
He
some
sits
Forrest
somewhere different
report.
every meeting.
well, that's so he can get a better view all the time. Okay, are invasive weeds, and are those considered horticultural pests and
No, that's a separate board that
That's
deals
the
with
noxious weed
noxious
board,
weeds,
yeah.
yeah. And this deals exclusively with like insects.
like bugs and rodents and stuff? Oh, okay.
That's state law that has them separate.
Yeah, yep.
God, leave it to the state to make more boards than they can have it all at once. Anyway, I think it's a great idea that these people are willing to do this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint these 4 individuals. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is executive appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Request confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Robert Seaman to the Whatcom Marine Resources Committee. The Marine Resources Committee assists Whatcom County in its efforts to address local marine issues and recommends remedial action to local authorities.
Move confirmation.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Now we have a whole slew of introduction items. And
I'll move approval.
well, let me explain it first.
You're gonna read every one of them?
No. Definitely not. Number 8 has been removed. Number 14 has been removed. Number 21 has been removed. And number 26 has been added. That's all I wanted to point
What
out.
was number 26 that was added? What? What was number 26 that's been
It was
added?
added, resolution of the Whatcom County Council requesting the executive
Oh,
person
okay.
finance. That's the one we
Did this
talked about
afternoon?
this afternoon.
Yeah, all right.
So I would entertain a motion to introduce.
Also moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chair, before we move on, there was a point that was raised by one of the speakers today about Spokane ruling, and I was wondering whether Ms. Frakes would have anything she could address on.
She talked to us about it.
No, I know that, but,
For the sake of the public.
yeah.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't have the details of what Spokane did, but I know I have it in my email and can provide it to you.
Well, I just think that I'd like the public to see some understanding of it, because they seem,
I think there's some misunderstanding
yeah,
of what
that's,
they.
so I
yeah,
think most of the members of the public think that rule applies here,
Right.
and I'd like to just provide some more information to the public. so
If
they
it
can-
would be helpful, I can make sure I have it before the next meeting, and if you want it in that context, I can provide it.
Well, I'd like the public to get it, and know whether the council would like a presentation next meeting, I don't know, that's up to council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Brenner?
I mean, I don't know if this is the time we're supposed to be talking about anything like subjects, but since he brought it up,
Okay, we are
What?
now in other items, and that is what this is.
okay, so
So
it's.
you're good.
Other item. I agree that it's not exactly like our case here, but I do believe that Spokane County, and I'm trying to think what other county, did try a different route, and instead of jumping right into a moratorium, and I think that that's a better way to go, rather than just, it's like, it was all or nothing, according to the council supermajority, rather than trying to explore other possibilities. And that's what's concerning to me. The hearings board wasn't gonna just go, oh, you're invalidated overnight. They didn't, I mean, at least we could have tried some of these others. Some that I brought up, we can't even try anymore because the time's run out. But the ones who spoke about, they put in the well, I know why that really got to me, because a lot of people who have a brain are gonna wanna make sure they've got good water before they build. And there'll be a lot of people who have done this over the years. And when they could afford it, they put in a well. Doesn't mean they were gonna build immediately, but they put in that well. And that's why, who's here? Nobody's even here from planning. Tyler, you're it then. I do wanna make sure that planning considers that it's still part of the process. And I can't even imagine buying property without knowing if I have decent water to build. So obviously, a lot of people are gonna put in a well long before they even start to build. So there's a bunch of things that I think need to be brought into this whole discussion. And I would like to see if planning, they're gonna come up with these different numbers. I would like to see if they could come up with a number of potentially, or approximately, how many wells are already out there? The building hasn't started, but the wells are out there. And I would at least like to know those numbers. Maybe there's not that many, but that's an issue as far as I'm concerned.
Ms. Frakes, would you like to
I was
respond?
just going to say, what I do know about what Spokane has done, my impression was that their regulations were very restrictive. And on the issue, from what I've been told on the particular section that was brought up regarding the distance from the stream or whatever.
Another
it
well.
was, another well, that has nothing to do with the impairment of in-stream flows. That has to do with impairment of
Senior
another.
And we
right.
talked about that in
Right.
executive session today.
Right.
Everyone knows that on this council.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about, that's a whole different issue than what I just brought up. So don't look at me like that.
Mr. Sadoo?
I just want to say that, we as a council have to clear the air in the sense that a lot of people who are in this jeopardy or have been, they are not fully knowledgeable what happened here. We are in middle of it, and we all know, we hear the information, the intricacies, and even, the president of Realtor Association suggested that, okay, there's 150 gallons of water, and we put 90% of the water back and everything. I think it is our duty to openly discuss this, that why this is not possible. Otherwise, it looks like this is such a simple, how much brain do you need to understand that? You use only 150 gallons, you put more back, and that. But problem is not that simple. But when we don't say anything about it, including the department, including PDS, it just exasperates people. Because they're supposed to know that what are the other implications of it? We understand, that there's the in-stream flow and everything. We must explain that to people. People think that this council is making decisions. Some people know that, the court did that. But they really don't get it. Why did the court do that? And I think this is the responsibility of the administration also, to explain to people what happened here. It's not something that we are trying to implement something or take people's property rights away. That's how people feel. And if I'm in that position, I'll feel the same way if I don't know the whole story. And one of the story is, it's not only about water. If people come and explain to us that so much water, so much rainfall, and the gentleman was engineer, and 5 acres, 7,000 gallons, or so many million gallons of water falls and everything. But you know why they're making that argument? Because they don't know what the issue is here. And they think the issue is that, you don't have adequate water. We must actually explain what is underneath the word adequate water is completely different issue. And that issue is this in-stream flow. Like we heard today, that it's impossible, even for a hydrologist, to say that any well would not affect in-stream flow, period. Means anything you draw out, somehow or some way, it affects the in-stream flow. And then question starts coming is, okay, what is the mitigation? We must actually peel this layer one by one and put it in front of people who are affected by that. So that's my piece. And I think that if people understood, they will not be so upset and worried and concerned and looking at that they are losing all the value in their property. And it's not the council this has been going on for a few years. So I don't know how. I would just request that we should have some kind of communication where we're not discussing this issues or problems we are trying to solve in isolation with people who are really affected. They should know. I mean, ultimately, they're going to know. Whatever solution we do, because I don't want to see the people say, oh, they come up with solution, you can use rainwater or not. We must go back, actually explain what we are trying to do, why we are trying to do that. Just saying to somebody, you can collect water from the rain and so much, or you can truck, or you cannot truck it all. We are just actually putting a cover on the whole issue, what our efforts are about to actually mitigate those things, mitigate and make their property worthwhile. But they don't know that. They have no way of knowing that. So I think this is a big communication issue. There is no water issue. There's a lot of water in this county. Okay? We should all, I want everybody to understand, it's not about how much amount of gallons of water we have available. It's other issues, and we must actually clear that air.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Schroeder.
so Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. Councilmember Sidhu, your point is very well taken. There are a lot of complex issues surrounding the resolution and the next steps of the Hearst case. As council knows, there was a lot of discussion and legal work in front of the Supreme Court, and council supported that discussion. We are now looking forward to what's next, what comes forward. I would recommend if any members of council or the public has any questions in regards to how it affects them or their livelihood or their property, to reach out to Planning and Development Services. We have a lot of information. We've been in direct contact with that department, as well as the health department for water availability, as well as our technical assistance from Public Works. And there is a informational sheet on the Planning and Development Services that tries to outline the best the department can on the next steps associated with it. As council's aware, council's asked the administration to come back with the next interim ordinance within 30 days of when the emergency moratorium was placed, and we continue to work with that as the goal, and we will be back in front of council with an introduction of an interim ordinance within that time frame. And if anybody has questions, I'd say that the public should come the next council meeting, and then also the December 6th council meeting, to understand what those next steps are, to try to provide more information to the public on where the county is going in regards to this very complex situation. The last thing I'll say is that County Executive Jack Lowes and myself will continue to be going down to Olympia to have conversations with committee meetings in regards to different legislation that's going to be proposed this year to try to solve this situation, because it will need some legislation in Olympia to resolve the outcome of the Supreme Court case.
Mr. Brown.
I'll allow Mr.
I was
Sidhu.
going to just follow up. Actually, I totally understand the administration is making best efforts to come up with solutions. The point I'm taking is, like the gentleman came in, they don't understand what happened here, right? And I think that we must tell the people who are coming to the department, they get, okay, you can be allowed, we are working on a ordinance, and you will have 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 different options. That's one part of the solution, I totally understand. But how and what it came about, what is underlying reasons this happened, by this, why somebody was following up on this case all the way up to Supreme Court. People need to know that as well, and that should be part of the information. I don't have an answer right now, the how to, but that is what people need to understand. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
To follow on to what Mr. Sidhu is saying, I was wondering if our council, our legal counsel, and perhaps the Executive's Office and PDS could put together a question and answer sheet on all the ideas, both that sort of gives a little bit of an explanation as to why this has happened, what the Supreme Court's decision, perhaps even a paragraph or two what drove that decision. But then many people have come up here and given us ideas and they've said, well, it's just simple, you just do X. And, you know, I'd like us to write down what X is and then respond. So the question is, well, why don't you do X? And the answer would be because we can't, or because of the following. But at least to be able to give that to a person so that they've worked through all the things. And they see that at the very least, they see that we're considering all the issues. We're listening to what they're saying. We are trying to navigate through this. And I think it will just help to sort of de-escalate the overall level of frustration. And if there needs to be, if the council's wishes us to do that, I'd hope the council would support that. And I'm happy to work as a member of the council on doing that, if you want.
Yeah, so Tyler Schroeder again. We have developed a fact sheet, but we haven't quite gotten to the point of a question and answer. Okay. With the interim ordinance that's going to be introduced and proposed, I will work with staff to try to develop something that goes through those questions that we've seen and try to answer them the best that we can.
Right. And one example is the Spokane issue.
Yep.
Well, why don't we just do what Spokane is?
Yep.
Because of X.
And we've thought through that many of times, and we have some answers to each one of those.
Ms. Brenner.
Well, it's not that easy. And I appreciate Tyler, and I know you're doing the best you can, but what we've gotten of other ways people can deal with this, I don't want to say it's disingenuous, but they're not possible. If you could do any of those things, you wouldn't even be needing a private well. The people who have private wells or want to put in private wells are doing it because they don't have those other options. So it's not, and if people don't understand a lot of this, you know, all this stuff anyway, they're certainly not going to understand the nuances of what that really means. It doesn't mean anything. We can say all we want. Well, you can hook up to a public water system. Well, no, you can't. Well, you can, what was that other one? You can get a water right. And I'm still not sure if there's even a water right been issued by Ecology in my lifetime. So these things are just not even realistic. And that's what we keep talking about, those things which aren't realistic. And as to, I have a little different take on what this whole, the state Supreme Court, they're a bunch of politicians, and they have a bias. And this was one of the most biased decisions I've ever seen. And it totally lacked due process for the people who are being affected by this. And I do believe that we have other options. And it just really bothers me a lot that nobody's questioning anything that happened. And that, oh, well, it's the Supreme Court, you can't go any higher. Well, it's the state Supreme Court. And if somebody didn't get due process, there may be avenues at the federal level. I mean, there is this thing about due process. It's kind of like taking of private property. There are certain things that that you're not supposed to do, even if you're this big politician on the state Supreme Court. So I just don't think we're going to agree on the why and the what. And I also don't think it's going to lessen somebody's anxiety. I don't think it'll lessen it at all if they understand like you understand it, or they understand like I understand it. That would make me more, I'm more anxious because I do understand it. So I don't think it's going to make it better for anybody. We're supposed to represent the people here in Whatcom County, not the state Supreme Court. We're supposed to try and do what's in the best interest of the residents. And this kind of was a rollover. I just don't think that we tried any of the, okay, he's getting mad, I'm not going to say anything.
May I say something? I am getting mad, and you know, Ms. Brenner, you know I love you, but I do not think it is a good idea for you to sit here and act as though there is a good solution, or there is an obvious solution, or that we rolled over for the state Supreme Court. We don't have the option of saying, you know what, state Supreme Court, we don't really like your recommendation, so we're just going to ignore it. And there are people who come up here and, with a ruler, as though simple math will persuade everyone, oh, you're right, there's a lot of rain, don't worry about it. That is not a viable solution either. And when you sit here and be like, oh, well, we're just rolling over, or there are other options, or there are other things we can do, that is misleading people, and that's what brings them out here to tell us, hey, it's common sense, so please change your mind. We don't have that luxury, and we have been working hard behind the scenes. Our entire administration has been working hard to come up with solutions that are fair for all the people that were here tonight and all the other people that are affected out in the county. And I don't appreciate the message being put out there that we're not doing it and we should have done something better and we're being weak-kneed, because that is not the case.
Here, here.
Oh, please. Well, you and I will agree to
Let's
disagree. I have my hand up.
confine this discussion to another time.
Well, he
and-
said here, like, oh. Yeah,
Ms.
well,
Brenner, Ms. Brenner, please. If you have a constructive comment, go ahead. Yes.
I do have a constructive comment. I know that everybody on this council is frustrated. So I'm frustrated, and it's not personal, but we most certainly did have other options. And one, the clock ran out, but we at least could have extended something and gotten more information. And I don't know if you've looked at Bob Carmichael's letter yet, but I think there's a lot of good information in there. And I'm just, I feel like this just got jumped into about the
I
moratorium.
don't want to facilitate an argument on the council.
Well, I don't want to argue
Okay.
because I know you're frustrated. I'm just saying that there were other options that lawyers said existed, not me. I'm a layperson, but this was from lawyers. And it was the Washington Association of Counties. So,
Mr.
there
Brown.
you have it.
I would just like to reiterate that I'm confident that the county staff, the county council members, our council, the legal counsel that we hired have all worked very diligently to try and navigate through this, and is working very diligently to try and find a solution to this. I think it's unfair to suggest, as Mr. Mann pointed out, it's unfair to suggest that we're just rolling over, or that there's obvious solutions which we're ignoring. And so, I think, yeah, I apologize perhaps for my tone in my response to Mr. Mann's comment, but I absolutely believe that everybody who's involved in this is working as hard as possible to try and find a solution to this.
Okay. Any other business items? Council member updates.
I'll just say that we had the professionals from the Vera Institute of Justice out here for the last 3 days, and I want to commend every county staff and department head and elected official who in any way touches the criminal justice system for putting in an impressive amount of time and sincere effort to talk about criminal justice, the ways in which the system works, to collaborate with the consultants that we've brought in, and everyone from the prosecuting attorney to the judges to the social justice folks. Everyone was in a room all day yesterday together having productive dialogue, and they stayed all day, and I was just very touched, frankly, that everybody is still so engaged and trying to work together on criminal justice issues and incarceration reduction strategies. And I just want to commend everyone in the county staff and departments and electeds for giving up valuable time to participate yesterday and in the last 3 days. It was really wonderful to see.
Mr. Brown?
I have no update, but I'd just like to thank Mr. Mann for your dedication and passion on that issue.
My pleasure.
I'd said here, but.
Well, you're sitting next to me, you better.
I get focused.
Yeah. I have a question for Forrest. We had that big, long budget meeting today. If we have because some stuff came up that actually got me thinking about some other things, can I still, request another amendment? How do I do it?
I guess I would leave that to the council. As this goes along, it becomes more challenging to things in and process everything in time to get it into the budget, but it's a fluid document at this point, and obviously it's your prerogative to change things, so if...
Well, I don't want to change them, I want to add at least one thing.
Okay.
But we're having a hearing on the 22nd. I mean, there may be some good proposals people bring up to us then too, so.
Absolutely.
What is the?
So,
okay.
I'm putting together the remaining things that were talked about today. Thinking about this.
Well, I have one
They could either
specific.
be verbally done at the time, or you could give them to me and I could put them in as part
I'll
of
get
the
it to you
package.
tomorrow, by tomorrow.
Mr. Donovan?
No.
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay, then with nothing else before the council, we are adjourned.